Chapter 2, Grace in the Garden. It was a quiet Saturday morning when I found myself walking down a narrow street on the west side, where the sound of traffic faded behind rows of small brick houses. Between two of them stood something unexpected, a garden. Rows of green life sprang up from city soil that had once been nothing but cracked concrete. The smell of fresh earth and tomatoes filled the air. That's where I met Mrs. Rosa. She was kneeling by a patch of collard greens, humming softly, a tattered Bible resting on the edge of her garden bench. Her hands were dark and strong, the kind that have known both hard work and deep prayer. I introduced myself, told her I was collecting stories of faith across the city. She smiled gently and said, "Honey, every plant here is a prayer I once cried." As she began to speak, I realized her story was one of loss turned into love. Years ago, she'd lost her only son to gun violence right on this very block. For a long time, she couldn't even step outside without breaking down. But one night, she said, the Lord spoke to my heart clear as day. He said, "Rosa, grow something where the enemy tried to destroy." So she did. She tore up the broken pavement and started small, a single rosebush. Then neighbors began to notice. Kids came by to help plant. People who hadn't spoken in years started sharing tools, seeds, and stories. "This garden ain't mine," she said, smiling toward a group of children playing nearby, "it belongs to God. He turned my mourning into planting." I asked her how she kept going when grief tried to return. She reached for her Bible, flipped the pages until she found a spot worn thin from touch. Matthew chapter 5 verse 4, she read aloud, her voice trembling but strong. "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." She looked up and said, "That's my promise. God didn't take away my pain, He planted peace right in the middle of it." Before I left, she handed me a small bundle of basil, said, "Take this home, child. Let the smell remind you that even in the city, grace can grow." As I walked away, the sound of laughter mixed with the rustle of leaves. I thought of how God's love blooms even in places the world calls hopeless. In every seed planted by faith, there's a sermon still growing. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7.